GM. Hi, Emily. Thanks for joining me for
Hey,
this.
thanks for having me.
Yep. Yeah, congratulations. I just saw that it's already gone past your combat mode has already gone past 1,000 mints. I keep on
Woohoo.
trying to get like specific numbers. Like I wanted to mint 99, I wanted to mint 169, I wanted to mint 69. Every time I'm busy tweeting about this, I miss all the actual numbers that I wanted to mint.
I think Amy Yang got number 69.
Yes.
Yeah.
While I was tweeting the drop on Twitter and Warpcast, she collected 69 and I got 70. I was like, come on, I missed it. And 69 is like really, I really like the 69 one as well, which was this palette, which I really liked.
Oh, yeah. I love that palette too.
Yeah, so I see like you've got like so far like let's see, there's 1,054 mints. Let's check what the traits are looking like in terms of the number of traits. So I thought you mentioned yesterday that there's a possible of 10 palettes, right?
Yeah, there's 10 palettes. How many of them have showed up so
Only
far?
9.
9. Yeah, there's an ultra rare one. It's like,
Ooh.
yeah, it will show up at some point, and I'm excited for whoever ends up with one.
So it will, like, considering there's 6 more days remaining, right?
No, a little longer than that. We're
Okay.
actually running it. Yeah, it's, the idea is that it's leaning into the ethos of like it's
Oh
for
gosh,
everybody. So
excellent.
yeah,
91 days. Why did I think six
yeah,
days? I got to go change some things. All right, 91 days.
yeah.
Amazing.
Duration of Unchained Summer, basically. So whenever Unchained
Perfect.
Summer ends is when this ends. Yeah.
Oh, great. Um, and I was like, of course, trying to try my luck of like how many variants will I get. So I guess in 91 days, I know this is like a proper, I know it's like probability, but like, is there possibility that that 10th variant might never turn up?
I mean, I guess it depends on how many are minted. So I'll leave that as a surprise, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah, if there is a possibility that it never shows up, but I hope it shows up because I am proud of it. Yeah.
Nice. So like already so half of them, is that what you planned? Like at least half would be like critical hit,
Yeah,
roughly.
half. That is the common palette. I that one's kind of the most neutral of the palettes, and it kind of references my a little bit more of my art style in terms of colors, but the rest are I wanted to depart as much as possible from what I normally do, and so it was a lot of fun playing with neons. Usually that's not in my repertoire, but I really leaned into it and I just had a blast with it.
Yeah, I would definitely like like when I first minted, of course I got a critical hit first.
Yeah,
And like the color palette like matched like what I mentally think of your kind of style.
yeah,
Uh, and just just in terms of like it matches more. I don't know if the right artistic word, but a more subdued rather than neon glaring brightness,
yeah.
like with the video game style brightness. So I
Mhm.
felt it did match that. Um, and then I think a lot of people might recognize that some of these kind of phrases are very tied to gaming.
Yeah,
So critical hit, I'm guessing, is from Final Fantasy or
yeah. RPGs in general.
just in general, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like critical hit is just a thing in gaming, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
And
really into Final Fantasy too.
sorry?
You're really into Final Fantasy too
The funny
as
thing is
well.
I
Sorry.
played it a bit, but I watched every single movie. Like
Oh, okay.
I watched, even though some of them like the storylines were kind of all over the place, but I just loved the visuals and like
Yeah.
just the style of it. Like it felt quite different than say like an anime that I felt was more like other anime that seemed to copy very clearly like Dragon Ball Z style, for
Yeah.
example. So it was very interesting to see like like with Dragon Ball Z, the games were derived of the anime, right? Whereas this was the other way around, right? Like Final Fantasy was the movies were like derived out of the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see how that kind of differs.
Yeah. I've always loved the Final Fantasy games for kind of their ability to build worlds, like just such immersive worlds, and the character evolution. That's always been pretty like central to my love for those games. Like I really felt like when I was playing them, I became friends with the characters, or I had like very significant attachment to the characters. And yeah, just seeing them grow over time is always it's always amazing. I like story driven games, but mostly, but I play other ones too. Yeah.
Yeah. Are any of these specifically tied to Age of Empires? Oh well, this one like is a to me like this is a very classic meme, right? The all your gold
Yeah.
meme. So
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. When I was young, like me and my friends, we were really obsessed with this meme. So the like it was really fun creating a palette for it because I am kind of like it's like a nod to my teenage self. I'm giving my teenage self like a fist bump for this one.
yeah. Yeah, I still hadn't gone through all your through all the traits until we started this call,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, oh great, I'm gonna like look up each of these traits and compare it to like what like all your base. I feel like a lot of people in the space don't get that at least.
Yeah, I hope
Um,
so. It's a fun one conceptually. Yeah.
what's Yellow Checkpoint? That one I was surprised by. I couldn't I couldn't think of a
Oh,
reference.
that's like a little more indirect of a reference. Like yellow save point. I was just trying to reference the color that
Okay,
was
got it.
kind of neon yellow. I feel like I was initially going for yellow save point. Maybe I should have done that instead.
Got it.
Checkpoint also kind of, you know, also worked. Was a little
Yeah,
more general. I felt like maybe more
yeah,
people
yeah.
kind of I just wanted people to, like some of the palettes to be kind of immediately recognizable by name. Because some of them, for example, like monopool might not mean something to a lot of people. But for this one, like I definitely think of like the MP bar that's filling or like depleting during a
Yeah.
game. Oftentimes it's either like blue or like this kind of color of the borders. So yeah.
Another thing I noticed. So the address at the bottom that's not the Minter address, is it?
That's the transaction hash.
The transaction hash. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted a way to kind of impart some sense of uniqueness because it is like an open edition and it is the same image and the same image appears in all sorts of different colors. But like it can, I wanted still the person who minted it to feel connected with the piece and to feel like there is a touch of uniqueness. And so that's kind of like what that little transaction hash does there.
That's great. So then like I minted, so I was like randomly trying. So I minted one from one wallet, then I minted from another wallet, then I minted 4 in one transaction. So that should all have the same transaction hash, right?
I actually don't know if the same if a batch minted in one transaction would have it. But I imagine so. I actually didn't like test that.
Oh yeah.
Can we see that one? I'd be curious.
Let me see. So for example, let me take the 5850. Yeah, so 9394. So if I take that one, so that one is ending with B06 and yeah, nice.
Cool.
So
Fun.
the ones that are minted in the same like if you mint, more than one, it gets the same transaction hash over there.
That's really fun. I didn't actually think about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Awesome.
So it's like if you mint a batch, it's like that whole batch. Like I guess all those pieces kind of belong together in some way.
Yeah,
that's fun.
So there's the fun part about minting on base, of course, is that you don't worry about the gas part, right? So if you want each one to be unique, you could go ahead and mint one by one by one and get a different transaction hash, and that way each image is different. Aside from the palette, of course. Where's the trait palette? So in terms of like how like it's kind of how do you like compared to your normal generative art series when you have your like palettes that you have in mind. With this one, you're going for, I guess you're trying more inspired by gaming, especially more like retro gaming in terms of the color style, right?
Yeah, but also new. I think like the sort of the what's inspired by retro gaming is kind of like the font, kind of like
Okay.
pasted all over the image, and then like information at the bottom, and then the borders and the two characters kind of like in an epic battle, and then the receding grid. But I did let myself kind of be a little bit more inspired by new stuff for the palettes. Like some of the colors definitely are a little more, a little more cyberpunk, a little
Mhm.
more kind of modern, but neon nonetheless, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, what is the breakup of these like astrological symbols over here? I was happy to see Scorpio up front, and then I was like, why is it broken up this way? So I was like, oh wait, should I be S for Scorpio?
There's
Oh, there's a
actually
different.
there's a hidden message in there. It's nothing. If you can figure it out, you let me know. But I'm gonna keep it a secret for now.
Oh, okay, all right. I was like, I'm such a terrible code breaker, so something will be staring me in the face, and I wouldn't even have thought of like what are the possibilities. So first, when I saw it, I was like, all right. Oh, wait. No, it's not summer. So all right, I'm definitely gonna play around with this.
Yeah, play around. I'd be curious to hear kind of your methodology at arriving at an answer. Yeah.
Did you do a lot of stuff with these kind of like hidden messages before ever?
Not really, but I just thought it'd be kind of fun. Like I do like Easter eggs, and so I put one there.
Nice. Is it the combo for Hadouken or something? Yeah.
And that one's a base blue palette for all the base fans.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the base fans will be trying to collect more of that one. So Year of the Dragon. Curious about that one.
That one was actually less of a video game homage and more like, I mean, I do care a lot about, like in my artwork, like I do sort of explore the themes of like culture and heritage. And, even though this has like a very strong gaming theme, I let myself kind of take up on that exploration again in this particular palette. And so obviously it's like a reference to the Chinese zodiac, and it depicts, this artwork depicts a dragon pretty directly, and so I was like, oh well, it happens to be the year of the dragon. And so I just kind of wanted to nod to that. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think on OpenSea there isn't a way to make a trait offer on base yet. So I'm
Oh,
like, oh, I'd like how do I have to go like if I want to get one of these, I got to make an offer on each one individually and see what happens. Or I know there's 91 days to try to get one of these.
plenty of time. Yeah, but we'll be doing a lot of fun things in those in the meantime. Like we'll
Oh,
definitely
really?
have like some prizes, and there'll be
Nice.
merch that's involved. Like I definitely this is definitely like in the collectible camp. And so we wanted to tie the physicals that came of this with kind of that same ethos of like openness and accessibility. And so we have like tote bags and, like posters and t-shirts. That's kind of like what we're thinking. That's all going to happen, I believe, next month.
Oh, nice.
So the merchandise takes a little bit of time. But I believe we are planning something for like full set, like, or palette collectors, those who kind of seek out all the palettes, will kind of, time box that to a certain time frame. Like if you have all the palettes by a certain date, maybe there's like a special kind of, perk involved. So that's kind of
But
what.
when you say all the palettes, there's only like 10 of high score, so that's gonna be like or like, and if you're saying that the 10th palette is like probably like if there's just one of them.
Well, there's, different like tiers. You can have like
Okay,
people that collect like 8 out of 10
great,
palettes, or people that
excellent.
collect all 10, right? So I think there's different things that we can do, and that's kind of
Yep,
all being worked out. So we'll announce when we kind of have when that time nears, like for all
awesome.
merch stuff. Yeah.
Because I think I've got only 3 palettes so far, so I'm like, oh great. Out of my 11, I've only got 3 palettes. So I'm like, I got a way to go to grab into like let's see. I guess I didn't get Mana Pool yet. No, I got Mana Pool, right?
I
Yeah,
love that palette, Monopool. Like me personally, I just love that one.
nice.
Because it's just so like, I don't know. I feel like it kind of combines a little bit more of like that retro kind of muted aesthetic, but then there's like splashes of like, very intense neon in the borders and within
Yeah.
the monsters. So
Did you ever play that Double Dragon game?
no, tell me about that.
Oh, that I'm wondering if that palette there was, I think that palette, trying to think, in-game palette, like how it looked.
Oh, well, it's cool that it kind of reminds you of that then.
Yeah, I was trying to even remember if my memory of it was correct, because it did change around, but trying to remember like how it looked in game. But
Monopool actually kind of, what I was thinking of as I was creating this palette was, Legend of Zelda. If you ever played Breath of the Wild, they had these incredible like fairy fountains, and they have like, if you look at one, when these scenes kind of emerge, like there's the central fairy character, and she's like flesh toned, and the rest of her environment is so like glowy, and there's like these glowing creatures fluttering about, and it's there's streaks of neon. Yeah, you see like in Legend of Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, there are kind of like these in the game, there's just like these very concentrated like like bits of color that kind of peep through, like yeah. So I loved this game too.
even like even here, I actually haven't played this. I'm actually playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom right now.
Oh, okay.
I just started that.
Yeah.
I bought it like 6 months ago when I was in Japan, and then I just haven't played it. And I was also like, I'm playing it with my son, so we're kind of like taking turns going through it, and it's funny how he kind of likes the more rapid pace of Kirby more, but I like as opposed to like the, what do you call it, the traversing a world, exploring a world style.
Yeah, I definitely I started playing Tears of the Kingdom, but to be totally honest, like I kind of stopped like kind of early on, just because I felt it wasn't for me, because I'd already finished Breath of the Wild, and I felt like the value for me in Legend of Zelda was exploring this like incredible, beautiful universe with like a powerful, like the physics engine in that game is just so insane. Like the way they simulate the real world and the way that you can interact with the environment, like the attention to detail in that game was just like miraculous. And the fact that you could like do all sorts of creative things with your environment, like combine like this thing with that, like you can catch something on fire just by
Right.
like striking flint at wood, like that
Right.
to me was just like, whoa, this is just so next level. And I felt like for me the world exploration was so huge in Breath of the Wild for me that I felt like I'd already explored the universe when it came to
Got
Tears
it.
of the Kingdom, but then there was like an underground, but that didn't somehow captivate my attention as much. And so, yeah, I kind of gave up on that one.
No, it's hard when you've already done that universe and you're like, is it just sequels are kind of harder, right? Like that's the whole point. Like when like how do you feel you've explored a certain universe and then like trying to see it again? I don't know how they do it. Like I luckily had not played Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom was my
Yeah.
first one to start playing with.
But the Tears of the Kingdom, like what is innovative is like the building, right? Like I know that people had so much fun and went ham on the the sort of engineering that you could do. Like people made all these kind of huge contraptions or like destruction machines. Like I remember watching like TikTok videos of them and found it super interesting or fun to watch that.
Yeah. I need to probably watch some of those because I've built a few contraptions and like, this is interesting. Like, see, and then like my, like and using things like how the terrain is along with the contraption is quite so.
Yeah.
And which one is High Score based off of?
As in like, what was the inspiration for that?
Yeah.
There wasn't like, it actually, like I knew for this kind of rare palette, I wanted something that was kind of black based with rainbow peeking through. Like it just seemed to kind of make sense. It's like, it looks special. It looks kind of interesting. And it does kind of have like that kind of glowy feel in the lines of the characters. So yeah, there wasn't like a particular game that inspired it, but maybe general cyberpunk kind of aesthetic. Yeah.
Got it. My kids have some of those black papers where you scratch and the color shows.
Yeah.
So I really like, that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, like I was actually a little worried that it would look a little too much like that. Initially it did when I was first creating out the palette, and it looked a little less kind of special, but then I applied all sorts of transforms to kind of make it a little more special. Like if you zoom in and look at inside the contours, it's actually pretty detailed. Yeah, you might have to.
Oh, there we go. I can do it from here. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a lot going on there. Zoom in a lot more too. Or maybe at this resolution, like, there you go. So you'll have like within each line, there's just like a universe of, colors kind of interplaying with each other. To create this kind of like a more unique look. Yeah.
These colors are really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I have very bad luck with mints in terms of getting something rare. So I'm like, should I just cave in and like just try to? Yeah, I know I've got 91 days to figure it out, but I'm like,
you can trade. Like I definitely intend for people to have a lot of fun with this and like trade with each other. If that's something that that people are into.
Yeah. Oh, I should make that meme that, I trade you this for this meme, like, like with base in the palette.
Oh.
I'll trade you 2 mana pool for like 1 limit break, something like that.
Oh, and limit break, that's a reference to Final Fantasy for anyone that kind of plays that game. Sorry, those series. That one's like, I thought about like when the characters kind of have their limit breaks, like it's just, a sea of colors and it's usually glowing and all sorts of like, it feels kind of like, ultra charged, kind of special, energetic. And so that's kind of what this palette was referencing.
This is a really nice, I mean, they're all. So I'm rare. So I know you're saying it's a secret in terms of the rarest one, but it's interesting like how you got it, how do you have to choose like, what the rarer the one, how you get the palette. I always find that very interesting for, any generative art or any series where decide on the what makes it rare. Like, because I like, even High Score, you've got that both the name and the palette are so strong. So yeah, I'm waiting to see. Let's see. Let me just refresh the screen in case the palette got minted.
Yeah, when you see it, you'll know. I think that's how it was designed. Like the moment you get that rare palette, you will know that you got that. The ultra rare. And it's funny because this has been with every project, I feel like I just get really obsessive and I start like losing sleep and I start getting like a little like, I always call it like my slow descent into madness. And I felt like there was definitely a relationship with the the less sleep I got, the more mad I became, the more
Yeah.
unhinged the palettes got, which was actually kind of great for this. And so that, you know, uh, ultra rare palette was the one that I definitely it was towards the end that I created it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it definitely you know, yeah. It was like
So
my,
really had to descent into madness to get into it. Or maybe that's the final phrase.
yeah. Well, you'll see.
Oh, so none of these, I've actually seen you. This is not the first time that I've seen you tweet about Age of Empires. I've noticed you mentioned it before, especially with the Arabia part. So I was wondering if anything would be tied to like that.
It's 11 o'clock.
Not like, I just like Age of Empires. Like, that was
Yeah.
a huge part of my childhood growing up. Like, I would, get home from school and I would turn on my computer and I would play Age of Empires for hours on end, and I would make my mom so mad for doing that. And because I was like really into playing the game online, and I'd met like
Yeah.
online friends that I played with, and the sort of scenario that we like to play the most was low resources Arabia map and Dark Age
Wow.
start, and so it's kind of the most challenging. And so that just feels like, I guess I just feel nostalgia for it. Like, I just want to relive my childhood days. Like, I'm totally up for, like, I really want to play a game of Age of Empires right now. Like, thinking about gaming as I was like this like collectible series, like it just got me in the mood to game. In fact, like on the docket, I have or in terms of games I want to play, I have like Final Fantasy 16, and then the remake of 7 Part 2. I really want to play. Yeah.
16, my gosh.
16 has like a medieval feel. I really like medieval themes. I actually went to my first Renaissance fair, like was it last weekend?
That's LARPing, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I guess like LARPing might be one way to put it. But I feel like Ren Fair people, it's just going to a Ren Fair, I guess. And so I had a ton of fun with that. I went all out. I
didn't realize it had that theme. I didn't realize that Final Fantasy 16 was like that kind of style.
Yeah. I mean, each Final Fantasy has kind of its own different theme. Like, some of them are more dystopian, dystopian technological like hellscapes. Some of them are more like, that would be like Final Fantasy 7. Some of them are more like medieval themed. So 16 is more like high fantasy medieval, which is like, honestly one of my favorite genres. And I imagine like this is, Game of Thrones was kind of all happening, and I imagine this was being developed in the backdrop of all that and taking like inspiration from it. And because, that was like very of the moment, like people, like the general populace was just like very into fantasy. And so I love fantasy. Like, I can't wait to play this one. Yeah.
But do you get a break now, or are you working on another project like right after like this one?
I have a lot of stuff queued up for the year. I think that's the challenge these days, and why gaming kind of feels nostalgic for me. It's because I can't do it all the time. Like, it was a huge part of my life growing up, but nowadays I game whenever I find kind of the time for it. And FF7 remake I played during the pandemic. There was plenty of time during that, and I don't think I had yet gotten into the digital art scene. Like, I wasn't a full-time artist at the time. And so I had a lot of, I had time to play Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
And the remake first part. And so, yeah. But one of these days, hopefully soon, actually, maybe I'll disappear for a bit, and then, yeah. But when I play these games, like the Final Fantasy games, I kind of like play it. I kind of binge it. I really want to get into the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, I go through StarCraft binges of like months, and then I'll just not play for like 6 to 10 months, and then I'll go back into it. And then it's funny because you mentioned the low resource one. We were due for Deca one time. We were doing like a gaming night, and somebody found a map because we needed a map for like we were only 10 people, so we needed to find a map for 10 people. But there wasn't any proper one. But we found a 16-player map with extremely high resources. It was just ridiculous. Like extreme resources, extreme supply of like the units, and it was a whole different way of playing. Like wow, everything's available. You can build everything all at once, and like what is your strategy at that point? So extreme opposite of like a low resource game.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like low resources, like there are just so many constraints. And so you kind of have to, get creative with the constraints. Maybe
Mhm.
like I like what you said about what do you even do when there's so many resources abundant. But I never. How long have you been playing StarCraft for?
Since 1998.
Okay,
So
that's
the
a
funny
long
thing is
time.
that there's been years where I didn't
Yeah.
play it, and then like I lived in Korea for a year,
Oh,
and
cool.
at the time there was even 3 TV stations that just broadcast StarCraft 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And at the time they said like 1 in every 4 people played StarCraft in Korea at the time. I don't know how it is now.
Wow.
And they dominated on the international gaming scene. Like it was just
Yeah.
Korea versus the rest. Like um,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like um, hearing about reports of like deaths of like Korean gamers because they just gamed for too long and then
yeah,
like
yeah,
collapsed. And I was like, oh my God,
yeah,
game at your own. Be safe when you game, I guess.
yeah.
Um, but
And it was very interesting that like some of these researchers would say that like with StarCraft, like um, they would use chess to figure out how the mind, like I don't know if it's psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, would analyze strategy. But like with StarCraft, there's a time-based component for like with chess, it doesn't matter the time, right?
right.
Like the game doesn't evolve as time changes. Whereas with
Mm,
StarCraft, there's like a fog of war, and there's
yeah.
the time. If 3 minutes has passed, there's only so much the other person can do. But in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
you're like, what are the probabilities? Just just branches out.
Interesting.
So it was
Interesting.
very interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that same kind of mindset applies to Age of Empires,
Yeah,
or I guess maybe any real-time strategy
yeah,
game. Like with Age of Empires, I remember when I played, like my favorite technique was the castle rush, and so you have to, and early on in the game, like in the first like 7, 8 minutes, it's very crucial. Like the exact steps that you're taking, you're trying to micro optimize to make sure that you're wasting absolutely no time, because that like the sort of resulting impacts of those like incremental kind of like efficiencies make such a huge, it's huge, right? But I was gonna say when I played StarCraft, I played it once, I think, with friends. They they walked into my base and they laughed at me because I had like basically created pylon farms, like all in one place. They would just make pylons, 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 pylons. Because I was drawing the parallel between the farms in Age of Empires 2, and I thought you
right,
just needed to like just lay down a bunch of them all at once.
right, right.
So they like laughed at me and they're like, Emily, what are you doing? And yeah, I haven't played StarCraft since.
That, oh, that's so sad that they laughed at you instead of guiding you through it. So
Oh, I mean, like lovingly laughed at me.
yeah, yeah, of course, of
Like
course.
I was like, I was like, I thought it was funny too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny that I was surprised. Like I'm surprised. It's also interesting. Like in this space, like I see more conversations around like gaming and chess and like than in any other space I've been in. Right? Like it's like even the people who some of the people who understand like um, some of these NFT games where they've done things like RuneScape and all before, which I've never played, and how that like ties into like all these some of these NFT games that are going on these days. So
I guess that would make sense. I feel like the space is very like community oriented, and with games, you build communities out of them, right? And
Yeah.
they're pretty much like they're very much a social activity, a lot of these types of games. So maybe that's the connection there.
Yeah. I guess even like in a way, like, like with Bright Moments and stuff, right? There's that whole
Yeah.
community thing and
Yeah.
collecting the different citizens and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but all right, let's see how many have been minted. I know there's 91 days, and I'm going to be checking this every day. 1,393. Nice. And one last refresh to check if the 10th one. Nope, still 9.
Still not there.
Still not there. But 14 high score now. There was 13 high score earlier.
Oh, cool.
So that somebody else just got a new high score.
Nice. That's awesome.
Recently created. Yeah, really recent. C1484. So quite recent one. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite palette so far? Or any of these, like,
I think
you connect with any of them particularly?
I do like I like Pink Elixir. I like Year of the Dragon, and the name for All Your Base is just I really like All Your Base.
That's cool.
I mean, high score is beautiful and but that's for me. If I was you, it would be so hard for me to choose which one I'd want to make rarer. Because I like both of them equally.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. It sounds like you really like kind of warm tones, like pinks and purples and oranges and yellows. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Like I definitely like because even with Pink Elixir, I do like, I could see myself collecting more towards this kind of set.
Cool. I like that.
I think even with the Interwoven, I was trying to mint. I was like, there was a particular path that I was like, oh, I hope I get to mint that, and the one I got, I was very happy with. But I know I tend to gravitate towards like some of these warmer palettes or warmer tones or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So I hope there'll be a trading site where I can like trade some of my.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for it's fun like talking to you about like just specifically about the palettes and gaming side. So it's really fun that you had some time. I know you've been pretty exhausted getting this done. So
yeah, thanks for having me on your show. It's always great chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks.
Honestly, really. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.